Hello world, this music video from 1989 can crash your computer. Well, probably not your computer, but definitely some computers. And although it might sound ridiculous, this vulnerability has even been assigned a CVE. The problem had been forgotten about for 20 years, until now, when a Microsoft developer finally broke the silence. It all began way back in the Windows XP era, when a laptop manufacturer approached Microsoft with a problem. Whenever they played a certain music video on their laptop, specifically Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson, the laptop crashed. I can't play the song here as I just wasn't able to get the rights in time, but think 80s R&B Michael Jackson vibes. But anyway, the manufacturer wasn't content with putting the problem down to the laptop's personal taste in music, and so an investigation was launched. An investigation which found that playing the music video also crashed some of their competitors' laptops, and even playing the music video on one laptop caused a laptop sitting nearby to crash. Eventually, the source of the problem was found. It turns out that this particular song contains one of the resonant frequencies for the model of 5400 RPM hard drive used in the laptop. When exposed to this particular frequency, the vibrations within the hard drive were so great that it just couldn't function and crashed. So, a resonant frequency is the frequency at which an object vibrates at its highest amplitude. This is the same principle an opera singer can use to break a glass with their voice. Though in this case the hard drive didn't explode, but rather just stopped working and shut itself down. There was no permanent damage. I was of course quite eager to try and reproduce this, so I ordered some old random 5400 RPM hard drive off of Amazon, only to quickly realise that resonant frequency is determined by a lot more than just the RPM. There's the material that the hard drive is made of, as well as the shape and size of parts. As the CVE explains, only a certain 5400 RPM hard drive shipped with laptops in approximately 2005 is vulnerable to this denial of service attack. The exact model of drive isn't mentioned, which might make this whole story sound like some kind of an urban legend, but this kind of acoustic attack, if we can call it that, has been demonstrated before in a lab setting. In a paper titled Acoustic Denial of Service Attacks on Hard Drives, researchers were able to crash different models of drives by simply exposing them to various frequencies. And you don't even need to use a particular frequency to interfere with the operation of a drive. In a YouTube video from 2008, which I'll link below, an engineer shows that just by shouting at a rack of drives, the vibration caused to the disks resulted in the average latency of the drives increasing, and the latency of two of the drives even momentarily spikes above 500 milliseconds. Luckily, of course, since hard drives are declining in use these days, this whole problem is a bit of a non-issue. But if you were wondering what that laptop manufacturer did to fix the problem back in the day, well, they apparently added a filter in their hardware to detect and simply remove the offending frequencies during audio playback. Bit of an ad hoc solution. As you can imagine, this news story has received a lot of mockery in comment sections, with people pointing out that the song in question was pretty popular during the XP era, so surely it shouldn't have taken over 20 years for this to come to light. Also, the CVE is very non-specific, it doesn't even mention which hard drive model is vulnerable. However, the Microsoft engineer reporting this, one Raymond Chen, is quite well established, and an out-of-season April Fool's joke doesn't really seem like his style. And given we've seen acoustic attacks are possible, this whole story does seem plausible. But let me know in the comments, are you calling BS? Next up, cybercriminals are improving their operations in a strange way. By taking technological steps backwards, they are in fact evolving their operations and thus making more money. I realize this doesn't make much sense, so let's take the example of a recent PayPal phishing scam. People have been receiving phishing emails purporting to be from PayPal themselves, claiming that your PayPal account has been accessed unlawfully, $600 has been debited, and you should immediately call this customer support number. The email itself does actually come from PayPal. It turns out that the cybercriminals are using stolen PayPal accounts to utilize the legitimate PayPal invoicing function in order to send these phishing emails, pasting their pitch in the message to customer section. Whilst this abuse of PayPal systems is admittedly quite clever, the bit that's become quite common recently is where they ask you to call a certain phone number, with cybercriminals waiting on the other end of the phone line, hoping to convince you that the only way to fix the problem is by giving them remote access to your computer. And you can probably see where this is going. If you're gullible enough to do that, the miscreants will then use the opportunity to install malware on your PC, giving them access to further explore your systems, which will more than likely result in ransomware being deployed. The tactic of having the victim initiate a phone call has become known as bizarre call, and it's being described as having revolutionized data breaches. It reeks of the typical Indian tech support scam, which seems rather low-tech, and it begs the question, if ransomware gangs have the ability to send phishing emails on a mass scale, automating initial access with downloadable Microsoft Office macros, malicious LNK files and so on, why would they want to take on the extra work of operating a call center? Surely this is only a step backwards. Well, the reality is that the traditional way of gaining initial access is getting old. Companies are getting better at combating phishing emails laced with malware, with a Conti ransomware gang member recently saying that we can't win the technology war because on this ground we compete with billion-dollar companies, but we can win the human factor. And they're achieving that through social engineering. By having the victim themselves make the phone call, the target believes they're the ones reaching out for help, so they're much more likely to give who they think is customer support the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that remote access. In another example, a phishing email claims that you've been charged a bunch of money for a Duolingo subscription, and that if you have concerns you should contact customer support, who will then, rather predictably, encourage you to download remote access software, something like Zoho Assist, a legitimate tool which won't be blocked by antivirus scanners. Exactly how the cyber miscreants then download malware onto your PC varies, because the attackers can adjust their plan on the fly, adapting to the OS and privilege level of the victim computer. Because bizarre call makes good use of social engineering, it results in a very high conversion rate, meaning cybercriminals can be selective about who they target. Whereas in the past they would have sprayed their usual malware-laden phishing emails at anyone and everyone, they can now target the specific industries they want to hack. For example, if you look at a breakdown of ransomware victims before this new bizarre call method arrived on the scene, the sector of victim companies is very random, but now that cybercriminals can target specific industries, tailoring those phishing emails to impersonate certain companies like mortgage companies or even cybersecurity companies, the breakdown of victims looks very different. Ransomware gangs love tech and manufacturing companies because they tend to have valuable intellectual property, and also finance and legal companies because they hold a lot of sensitive information that can be held to ransom. To be honest, I was quite surprised when I heard cybercriminals had taken this technological step backwards, but after understanding it a bit more, it is kinda genius. Do you agree? Let me know down below. This video was made possible by PlexTrac, the cybersecurity reporting and workflow management platform that empowers continuous assessment and effective collaboration between teams to ensure you win the right security battles. Create assessment reports in half the time and collaborate throughout the remediation lifecycle. Centralize your remediation efforts across all scans, assessments, and audits with powerful risk visualizations, scanner and ticketing integrations, and enhanced analytics. Communicate risks clearly across your team and in real time, working more efficiently and effectively with PlexTrac. You can claim your free month of the PlexTrac platform exclusively for Satanic viewers using the link in the video description. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to tickle that like button if you found this video interesting, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.